Good afternoon, and welcome to Day 2 of Practical English for Finance and Banking for Thursday, March 19, 2020. Now, on Monday, I left you with a handout called How to Write Numbers with Words, and asked you to read through it and pay careful attention to it. Today, I'd like to read through it with you and emphasize some important points on that for you. So number one here. First, it's important to learn the spelling of small numbers, since larger numbers are built upon those numbers. The first 20 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Notice 14 here is F-O-U-R. Okay. 15. Notice the 5 is F-I-V-E. 15, the V changes to an F, and the E disappears. So it's just fifth and then teen. 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Take careful note of 4 and 8, which are homonyms for other unrelated words. What's a homonym? A homonym is a word that sounds like another word. It may even have the same spelling but a completely different meaning, or it may be a word that is that is pronounced the same but spelled differently. In this case, 8, the number, and ate, which is the past tense of the verb to eat. I ate lunch. Okay? And 4, F-O-U-R, the number, which sounds like the preposition for, F-O-R, or also F-O-R-E. For, before, like forehead in front, or in golf, when people are taking a swing, they'll yell, "For!" to warn people down the course that they are hitting the ball. Okay? So be careful with those, that you don't confuse those. Number 2, once we get past 20, we must start using a hyphen. A hyphen is a dash. Okay? Sometimes we'll say hyphen, sometimes we use the word dash. It's basically the same thing. Okay? For example, the number 23 is written 20-3. Okay, dash or hyphen. Notice there's no space before or after the hyphen. It's 20-3. It's not a big deal. It's not that important, but the proper way to do this is using a hyphen as shown. Another example would be 78, written as 78. Okay, so once we get past 20, so all of these up to 20, there's no hyphens in there. It's not 4-teen or 6-teen. There's no hyphens in any of these. But once we get to 20, there's no hyphen, but 21, it would be 21. Okay? For numbers bigger than 100, we don't say the word and. Everybody does, which means you're really not supposed to, but many people do. Again, it's not a big deal, especially in just normal life, but to be precise, to be accurate, you should not say the word and when you're talking about a number larger than 100. For example, and they say everybody does, including the famous Disney movie about the dogs, but it's not correct. For example, the number 101 is written 101. 101. Not 101. Now, what movie are they talking about? Well, obviously, they are talking about the movie 101 Dalmatians. Now, is the movie title actually 101, or is it 101? When they just write the digits like this, you don't really know. But if you look at another movie poster, this was from the original, because they're talking about the all-cartoon feature, the new all-cartoon feature, 101 Dalmatians. Okay, so they did it using the word "and" here. Is it wrong? Yes. Does it matter? Usually not. But in certain cases, it could be confusing. Okay, and in American English, we should not use the "and" here. Now, what are Dalmatians? Well, Dalmatians are these spotted dogs. Okay, white with black spots. Okay, so let's go back here. The number 736 is written 736. Now notice the 36, we still have the hyphen here. Not 736. Okay, it's just 736. Notice there is no hyphen in between the number of hundreds and the word hundred. It's 700, not 7 hyphen 100. 700, it's these numbers less than 100, 36. Notice there is no hyphen between the number of hundreds and the word hundred. But there is between the 30 and the 6. And again, there is no "and." Now, in my undergraduate program, I studied mathematics education. And they were very strict about this and very clear about this. You do not use "and" in a case like this. You do not say 101. Why? Well, the next one will explain that. Now, a difference in usage. I have a former colleague from England, and there they do specifically say 101. And that's what they consider proper. Okay, so there will be a little difference there between American and British English. Again, it's not a big deal, but for accuracy, for correctness, that's the rule. Okay, number 4. The reason why we don't write or say "and" in those numbers is because we use the word "and" to imply a decimal point, to imply, to suggest, to indicate that there is a decimal point. For example, although we could say 7.2 as 7.2, the proper way to say or write this number is 7 and 2/10. 7 and 2/10. We use the "and" to mean the decimal point. It's a fraction of a number. Another example is 234.79, which we would write as 200, no hyphen, 234, notice there is a hyphen here, 234 and 79 hundredths. Notice the 79 here is still written with a hyphen, 79 hundredths. Number 5, speaking of decimal points, it's important to understand that place values to the right of a decimal point include the letters TH, pronounced th. In English, you have to stick your tongue out a little bit. Th. That is why we use the words tenths and hundredths above. Everyone say that. Tenth, hundredth, tenth, hundredth, tenths, hundredths. Try that. Tenths, tenths, hundredths, hundredths. It's a little hard to say. You have to work on it. Okay? Number 6. In order to properly write large and small numbers, you must have an understanding of place value. For example, you must learn to recognize 3,020,007 as 3,020,007. 3,020,007. We do not say and. 3,020,007. Similarly, in the same way, you should learn to recognize 0.005 as 5. The first place here is tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. So this is 5 thousandths. Try to say that. 5 thousandths. There's a lot of sounds there that you don't really have in Korean. The F, the V, the TH, and the TH. 5 thousandths. Okay. Number 7. When saying large numbers, do not make thousand, million, billion, trillion, etc. That is ETC. Comes from the, I believe it's Latin, etc. Etc. So we write ETC period, we say etc. Means and so on. Okay. Do not say ETC. When saying large numbers, do not make thousand, million, billion, trillion, etc. plural. Do not make them plural. Do not add an S. You should say $20,000 or 5 million people, not $20,000 or 5 million people. Okay? There should be no S here, no S here. Okay? In writing large numbers, you should use a comma. A comma. Curved a little bit. Let me use a different font here to make that show up a little bit better. Different fonts display it a little bit differently. This one makes it look really clear. So a comma really needs to have this curved part to it. Okay, the little hook at the bottom. A period, on the other hand, is just a dot. Okay, no tail. Okay, be careful that you don't make your periods with tails and your commas without. Okay. In writing large numbers, you should use a comma to separate thousands, millions, billions, etc. The proper way to write this 1,256,721 is 1,000,000, 256,000, 721. Notice it's 1,000,000. When we write the number like this, we have a comma here. So when we write it in words, we do the same thing. 1,000,000, 1,000,000, just keep the comma. 256,000, 256, notice the hyphen here, 56,000. There's a comma here, we use a comma here. 721, 721, 721 with the hyphen here. not 1,256,721 with no commas. Okay? Comma after million, comma after thousand. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, so keep this. I have uploaded the PDF file, so you can print that out if you want to. Okay? And this mentioned place values. So the next thing I want to look at is what's called a place value chart, or a table. Okay? And I have also uploaded this already to Blackboard. So you don't necessarily need to print out the entire thing, but you might want to print out a blank copy and maybe a completed one so you can practice and compare. And this will be on either the midterm or the final. Okay, so it is something that you do need to know and be very familiar with. Alright, so this is a place value chart. It's just a big empty table. Notice that we have a, what is this? Is it a dot? Is it a period? If we're talking about numbers, that is a decimal point. Okay, everyone say decimal point. Decimal point. Now, we're going to go to the left of the decimal point and fill in the chart or the table to the left here. So the first space, the first position to the left of the decimal point is the ones position. Everyone say ones. That's the ones position. Single digits. Then we have tens. For example, if you have the number 21, you have two tens. 2 times 10 is 20, and 1. Okay? The next position here is hundreds. Hundreds. So if you have 321, you have 3 hundreds, 2 tens, and 1 1. 321. The next position after hundreds is thousands. Thousands. What comes after thousands? If you have more, then you have 10 thousands. And then next you have 100 thousands. So for example, if you have 5,321. Notice when we get to the comma here, what do we say? 1,000. 5,321. 75,321. 675. Read this as one group of 3 numbers. 675,000, 321. Next, after thousands, if we have another number here, notice we've got 4 digits here now, 4 numbers. What do we need to put here? Another comma. Oh, not a period, a comma. We read these in the groups of 3. So, how do we read this? 8. What do we say when we get to this comma? This one is thousands. What is this one? 8 million. Remember, we don't say 8 millions. This is the millions position. This tells you how many millions there are. But when we read the number, we don't say millions. We say million. 8 million, 675,321. 28,675,321. After millions, we have 10 millions. 10 millions and 100 millions. So we might have here, let me make this font a little bit smaller so we can still see it here. $928,675,321. 928,675,321. What comes after 100 millions? If we have another digit here. Again, we've got a group of 4. We need to separate that with another comma. This comma is thousands, millions. What's this one? Billions, with a B. Billions. 4, that tells you how many billions there are. How many billions are there? 4. Do we say 4 billions with an S? No. 4,928,675,321. Billions, 10 billions, 100 billions. What comes after billions? Thousands, millions, billions, trillions with a T. Six. Need to make my font smaller again. So if we look at this, what I always do is I always just kind of scan it and see how big this actually is, because that's getting rather large. So this would be thousands, millions, billions, trillions. So 6 trillion, 524 billion, 928,675,321. Trillions, 10 trillions, 100 trillions. What's next? Billions means 2. Bi, like a bicycle. Trillion, tri, 3. What's next? A 4-sided figure. Quad. Okay? Quadrillions. Say that. Quadrillions. 10 quadrillions. 100 quadrillions. So if we have something like my number's getting too big again. Let me reduce the font a little bit. When this font gets small, it's a little harder to read. Let me switch fonts here. Okay, that's easier to read, I hope. So, This comma, we got thousands, millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions. 3 quadrillion, 156 trillion, 524 billion, 928 million, 675,321. Are you with me? I hope. Okay. Now, after hundreds of quadrillions, 1, 2, 3, 4 quad, 5 is quintillions. Like if you have a musical group. In music, 2 people actually would be a duo, a duet. 3 people, a trio, like trillions. 4 people, quartet. 5 people, quintet. Okay? So, I'll let you play with that. Now, if we come to the right of the decimal point, the first position to the right of the decimal point, as we already saw, is 10, not tens, but tenths. Tenths. Try to say that. Tenths. Because if you have 0.1, equals, how would you write that? What's another way to write that? 0.1, if you write that as a fraction, that would be 1 over 10. 1/10. 1/10. 0.12 would be, we read this as a single number, 12 over, that would be 12 over 100. 12 hundredths. 12 hundredths. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, thousandths. What comes after thousandths? 10 thousandths. 100 thousandths. Millionths. 10 millionths. And 100 millionths. And that's far enough. Okay? We don't often say those out loud, but that's where they are. Now, one thing we need to add here is what's missing on this table. The commas. Okay? So, the commas would go here between the hundreds and the thousands, between 100,000s and millions, between 100 millions and billions, and so on. Every 3 spaces. Okay, every 3 digits. So we'd have, like 5,321. Okay. Now, when we read a number like this, let me put a bigger number here. So let's not get too crazy on the left side, okay? But let's do a little bit here. So let me just take a small number, 5.354. 5. What do we say when we get to the decimal point? 5 and then read this how it's written. 5 and 354, just like we would normally read that number. 5 and 354. There's 3 decimal places. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And we only say the last one. We don't say 5 and 3/10, 500ths, 4 thousandths. Okay, we only read the last one. So it's 5 and 354 thousandths. Okay. If we increase that, if we add another space here, 5 and, how do we read this? 3,546, 4 spaces, 10 thousandths. 5 and 3,546, 10 thousandths. Okay? Now, on the left side here, notice we have the commas. We do not use commas over here to separate them. This 3,546, there's no comma there. If we increase that, add another digit here, 5 and, how do we read this? 35,000. Imagine there's a comma here. Okay, just read this like a regular number. 5 and 35,461, 5 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5, this is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths. So it's 5 and 35,461 100 thousandths. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope. If you need to, go back and listen to this part again and practice. Write your own numbers. Okay? Remember on the left to use the proper commas. Insert them where needed. On the right, there are no commas. Notice here also, to the left of the decimal, this starts with ones, tens, hundredths. To the right of the decimal point, there is no ones here. It starts as tenths, hundredths. Okay? All right. Now, the International Bottled, this is a little clip here from CNN Money. The International Bottled Water Association says that about 3.1 billion gallons of water are bottled in California annually, every year. Nestle, for example, uses 725 million gallons of water annually at its California bottling plants. A plant is a factory. The factory where they bottle water, put it into the bottles. But that volume is dwarfed. That volume looks very small in comparison by the 4 trillion, with a T, gallons used by residents every year. So sometimes if we're talking about very large numbers, especially billions and trillions, they'll say it's 5 billion with a B, or in this case 4 trillion with a T, to emphasize it, because million, billion, trillion sound similar, so that emphasizes it, it stresses it, it makes it more clear. That volume is dwarfed. This 725 million gallons looks tiny compared to 4 trillion with a T. Those figures, those numbers, don't include the biggest users in California, farmers. Agricultural use accounts for about 80% annually. Agricultural, farming use. Okay? So, now that you've got the entire chart here, the entire table, write these numbers. The ones from this little article. 3.1 billion, 725 million, and 4 trillion. a little practice. Now, that's all that I have for today. What I would like you to do, though, is practice. Write some numbers. Write some crazy large numbers. Write some numbers with decimal points. Write them in digits. Put them into the right position with the decimal point using the correct commas. No commas to the right here. Write some numbers, some small numbers, some really small numbers. Write some really big numbers in digits, in numbers, and write them in words. Be careful with plurals. You don't say 5,000s, it's 5,000. You don't say 2 millions, 2 million, no S. Okay? And practice using the hyphens correctly and also using commas correctly when you write the numbers in words. Okay? Normally, we would practice this in class, and I would have you write numbers for other people to write in words. We'd put it up on the whiteboard. We can't do that right now, so I'll let you practice at home. Okay? All right. That's it for today, so have a good weekend, and I will see you online again next Monday. Thank you.